Welcome back. To Papua New Guinea, where police have entered an Australian-run detention camp and ordered around 380 asylum seekers who are occupying it to leave. Samantha Vadas has more.
Chaotic scenes at an abandoned detention centre in Papua New Guinea. An asylum seeker collapses in a heated protest with local police who stormed the Australian-run camp on Thursday. Authorities are trying to end a 3-week standoff with almost 400 men who've barricaded themselves inside the closed facility and are still refusing to leave out of fear they'll be attacked because locals don't want them there. They want to kill us, they chant, as officers move in. Inmates tell Reuters police began carrying away their food and water in an attempt to force them out. Strewn across the ground, their belongings said to have been destroyed by authorities. Asylum seekers say they climbed onto rooftops and hid in toilets to avoid eviction. But Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has little sympathy.
Leave and go to the alternative accommodation that has been provided.
The men are held in the camp under Australia's strict immigration law, which refuses to allow in asylum seekers who arrive by boat. New Zealand has offered to take some of the men, but Australia has declined, saying its priority is an existing refugee swap deal with the US.
Myanmar has signed an agreement with Bangladesh on the return home of hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees who fled to the neighbouring country to escape a crackdown on the minority. It comes after the US called the military operation against the country's Rohingya population ethnic cleansing. As Grace Lee reports, it's threatening targeted sanctions against those responsible.
With no clear end to the Rohingya Muslim crisis in sight, the U.S. is stepping up its rhetoric against Myanmar. On Wednesday, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson used the term ethnic cleansing to describe the military operation against the Muslim minority, something he didn't do at a news conference alongside leader Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar last week. Tillerson says those responsible for alleged abuses need to be held accountable, and the U.S. could follow up with targeted sanctions. Washington is upping its rhetoric in part to pressurize Myanmar's leaders into dealing with the crisis, though analysts say it's likely to create more distrust between the two countries and push Myanmar closer to China and Russia.
We haven't seen this type of trauma for a long, long time.
Rights groups have accused Myanmar's military of heinous acts, including killing, mass rape, and arson against the Rohingya. More than 600,000 Muslims have fled Rakhine State, mostly to neighboring Bangladesh. Myanmar's 2-year-old government, led by Suu Kyi, has faced heavy international criticism for its response to the crisis. Washington officials say they'll work with Bangladesh and Myanmar to encourage the voluntary repatriation of Rohingya.
Zimbabwe's incoming leader has hailed a new and unfolding democracy after returning from exile. Emmerson Mnangagwa will be sworn in as president tomorrow, marking a new era for a country dominated by Robert Mugabe for nearly 4 decades. Scarlett Saitanovic has more.
Parliament's Speaker has confirmed former Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa will be sworn in as the African nation's new leader on Friday. He had fled for safety 2 weeks ago when then-President Robert Mugabe fired him, his ousting sparking the military takeover that forced Mugabe to stand aside. After ruling Zimbabwe for 37 years, he resigned on Tuesday, standing down hours after his foes and former party allies united against him in impeachment proceedings, and 1 week since the military action that put him under house arrest. The news was greeted by celebration. People danced and sang in the streets well into the night. There's hope Mnangagwa can halt Zimbabwe's economic decline, deliver clean elections next year, and woo back bilateral support from Western states. But many in Zimbabwe are hostile towards a man who, like Mugabe, stands accused of participating in repression. He was the head of state security during a 1980s crackdown that killed 20,000 people. Mnangagwa issued a statement from hiding on Tuesday, calling on Zimbabweans to unite to rebuild the country. Now the Mugabe era is over, there's hope that might really happen.
A divided region greeted the news of the life sentence handed to ex-Bosnian Serb Army Chief Ratko Mladic with mixed emotions. Residents of the Bosnia and Herzegovina capital of Sarajevo, which was under siege by Mladic's army from 1992 to 1995, said they felt that the Hague verdict meant that justice was served. But placards bearing the slogan, "You are our hero," were plastered elsewhere in the country, expressing support for him. The Bosnian Serbs see Mladic as their defender, with a deep polarisation between them and their Muslim Bosniak neighbours, reflecting a very slow reconciliation in Bosnia. In a surprise move, Lebanon's Prime Minister has backtracked on his shock resignation, at least for now. Saad al-Hariri has announced he's suspending his decision to quit at the request of the president, easing the country's major political crisis. Hariri, who's now back in Beirut, quit earlier this month while in Saudi Arabia. Lebanese officials claimed he was forced into the move as Riyadh, which is deeply concerned about Iranian-backed Hezbollah and its growing political influence. To Pakistan, where the man accused of masterminding the deadly 2008 terror attacks in Mumbai is being freed from house arrest in the country. As Eve Johnson reports, Hafiz Saeed is even looking to a potential future in politics.
India calls him a terrorist mastermind. The United States has a $10 million bounty on his head. But Hafiz Saeed will soon be walking free from house arrest in Pakistan. The notorious Islamist is accused of organizing the 2008 Mumbai attacks that killed 166 people. He's been under house arrest since January, but a court on Wednesday ruled against a government request to extend his confinement, saying there was no evidence directly linking him to the attacks.
Hafiz Saeed has always worked for Pakistan and for the betterment of the people of Pakistan. During this whole time, not a single act has been proven against him.
Not only is Saeed set to walk free, but he may be headed straight for politics. He controls the Milli Muslim League, a brand new political party launched by an Islamist charity that the U.S. accuses of being nothing more than a front for terrorism. So far, the MML hasn't won any big victories, but it has the support of the country's powerful military. Top brass have been pushing a plan to bring extremists into the mainstream in the hope they'll reduce militant activity. Saeed insists he was not involved in the 2008 Mumbai attacks, when 10 gunmen went on a 3-day killing spree at luxury hotels, a train station, and a Jewish center, bringing the nuclear-armed neighbors to the brink of war.
All right, a look now at other news making headlines around the world, starting in Argentina. It has been a week since a Navy submarine went missing there. The Navy says the search has now hit a critical phase, as the vessel is expected to be running low on oxygen. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro said 5 of 6 executives of US-based refiner Citgo, who were arrested in Caracas this week, are US citizens. He's vowed to prosecute them for corruption. Maduro mocked a demand by the US embassy to free the nationals who have dual Venezuelan US citizenships. Over in Cuba, North Korea's foreign minister is there trying to seek support amid growing pressure from the US and the international community to curb its nuclear ambitions. According to the Cuban Foreign Ministry, Ri Yong-ho is meeting his Cuban counterpart Bruno Rodriguez, among other unspecified activities. Havana and Pyongyang have maintained warm political relations since 1960, despite Havana's often stated opposition to nuclear weapons. Now, it's that time of year calling for a lavish meal with your friends and family. Over in the US, hundreds of homeless people enjoyed traditional Thanksgiving fare at an open feast. The Los Angeles Mission hosted the annual event on the city's Skid Row, where many in the homeless community live. On the menu, there's, of course, roast turkey, mashed potato, macaroni and cheese, and Brussels sprouts. The shelter has been serving people there for more than 3 decades, providing food, clothing, and medical care.
A great celebration to say we're here, we're all together, we're focused on this cause of ending homelessness, helping end people's issues of poverty, and so it's really just a shot at a great bit of exposure for what we do each and every day.
All right, time for sports. Kicking off with football, and Neymar scored a double as Paris Saint-Germain extended their perfect Champions League record with the 7-1 home demolition of Celtic. Celtic got off to a perfect start when Dembele opened the scoring in the first minute from a corner, but PSG reacted swiftly. The team have now powered on to 15 points from 5 games in the Champions League group stages. They lead second place Bayern Munich, who won 2-1 at Anderlecht. Elsewhere, Chelsea breezed into the last 16 of the competition with a 4-0 win over 10-man Karabag. They were helped by the award of a hotly disputed first-half penalty and a sending off in Baku's Olympic Stadium. Chelsea's win puts them on top of Group C on 10 points to guarantee their place in the knockout rounds. Sevilla coach Eduardo Berizzo has been diagnosed with prostate cancer and will undergo treatment after further tests. The 48-year-old Argentine saw his Spanish team produce a stirring fight back from 3 goals down to draw 3-3 with Liverpool in the Champions League on Tuesday night. Spanish media reported that he told his players about the illness at half-time. Berizzo took over at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan in the summer after spending 3 seasons at Celta Vigo. 4 Russian skeleton athletes have been banned by the International Olympic Committee for life after being found guilty of doping at the 2014 Sochi Games. One of those banned includes Olympic champion Alexander Tretiakov, Sochi bronze medal winner Elena Nikitina, Maria Orlova and Olga Polyetsina have also been found to have committed anti-doping rule violations. And finally, the former team doctor for the US Olympic gymnastics team has pleaded guilty to 7 counts of sexual assault on minors. 54-year-old Dr. Larry Nassar faces a minimum of 25 years in prison. That's according to the New York Times. 3-time Olympic gold medalist Gabby Douglas says she was also sexually abused by Nassar, the latest in a list of female athletes to accuse the doctor of misconduct.
You used your position of trust. You used that position of trust that you had in the most vile way to abuse children. I agree that now is a time of healing, but it may take them a lifetime of healing while you spend your lifetime behind bars.
All right, that's it for now. We'll be back later. Do join us then. I'm Joel Flynn. This is View TV News. Bye-bye.